taking away a Felios as well. We'll see if we see the LeBlanc and Syndra bans that have been synonymous with the LEC this week. Well, one of those is going to get through because Rakan is the next ban for Vitality.
It's also going to be if the Ornn falls through. We saw a lot of teams, and there it goes, have the priority pick onto the Ornn. I actually really agree with that ban specifically across from Vitality because Cabochard has kind of been their shining light. They've already shown that they will priority pick it. Things like Set are still available, however, and Vitality have also shown a propensity to pick that first side from blue. Now, that said, globally, a lot of analysts are pretty mixed on first pick Set. They feel like there are viable counters or viable answers into him. So we'll see if Sacre has a champion up his sleeve to punish that, or maybe Saken and Cabochard can flex this set to make it a bit safer to pick it so early on in the draft phase.
Well, the answer seems to be the Aatrox right now. Yet to see Sacre play that this split, nor his Jenax, but of course did make his name on the Aatrox last year in the mid lane. Alongside that, the MF is picked up by SK.
Both of these teams, Vitality and SK Gaming in their previous iterations, were really about the big wombo combo. They really rely on a lot of team fights, stacking a lot of ultimates to find victories or to find any sort of success in fights, not just, you know, game-winning victories. So no surprise to see MF so highly contested, but I really like the fact that comp has looked towards the Ezreal, especially when you do know that you're going to be facing probably a wombo combo team, and having that disengage built in.
Yeah, it just gives you that little bit of extra safety. We'll see what Vitality decide to round out this first rotation with. Gragas is something that has gone through the first set of picks here. Strange not to see junglers early on, but Braum will be the lock.
Yeah, I do agree that I think these are two teams, especially when you start getting towards the bottom of the table of the LEC, you start to see some gaps really form in kind of what teams and players are comfortable with in terms of champions that they'll prioritize. The fact that Gragas has fallen all the way through just tells me that Skeanz and Trick aren't as comfortable on that champion, or maybe the teams aren't as comfortable in utilizing that champion, but I am happy to see Sejuani.
Sejuani for Trick, it's the first time he's played at this split, but of course an incredible utility jungler. Olaf will be removed from Skeanz. Maybe we'll see a Lee Sin ban as well. That is his most played this split. And Vitality is starting to get rid of some of those supports.
And I think we saw why yesterday from Skeanz. Skeanz and Shadow really put on a clinic. They looked very smooth on those Lee Sins with some of their combos. They had some hero moments. I don't know if it will necessarily be targeted away from him, but it feels like a pretty safe bet that Skeanz will look towards his Lee Sin if given the opportunity.
Definitely makes a lot of sense for the team. There's the little LeBlanc ban. Still have Syndra on the cards. Perhaps we'll see SK Gaming pick that up first on Red's side.
I would say now that it was a LeBlanc ban and not another jungle ban, I would prefer if Vitality looked for some more hard engage. Now, because you do have a Braum, you're not as limited in CC because he can bring it to compositions, but I would like to see a Jarvan from Vitality.
I think Jarvan does make a lot of sense. Gragas also has that hard engage, and that's gone all the way through pick and ban so far. No jungle left for SK to pick. They'll be looking towards their support and probably keep that mid lane for the final counter pick.
Could go for the Nautilus or the Leona here, as both of them made it through. It was really the disengaged support of Thresh to keep this Misfortune safe in terms of team fights.
Yeah, there it is. Good prediction on the Nautilus. That will be locked in for Limit. It's the second time he's played that this split. And now we'll see where Vitality want to go. Set, of course, as we've said, it could be flexed into the mid lane. And they are probably looking for a jungler and a mid laner. And Ryze is a pretty good pick to put in the mid lane. Saken made his name on Ryze the first time he appeared on the LEC stage against Misfits last year.
Yeah, did his best Jizuke impression. Now the thing is they need hard engage here, but if they do go something like a Jarvan and they want to play topside around Cabochard, that means that you have double AD topside. So it could force Skeanz to look for an AP jungler if they do want to give a lot of attention and resources to Cabo, which is why I like the Gragas here. We talked about why is Gragas falling so far down. It might just have not the same type of priority on these types of players for these types of teams, but I feel like with this composition for Vitality, who have been all about Cabochard, he needed to find an AP jungler, so it's harder to itemize for Aatrox up there. If he builds the armor, Gragas can come up there and blow him up. If he builds the AP, Cabochard's going to hit just as hard.
Final lock for SK will be the Azir, so that's going to go in the mid lane for Jenax. Apologies that his name is spelt wrong on our little overlay there. Should only be one N in that. But Azir in the mid lane, pretty safe. Can put some harassment down. We talked a lot about the matchup, Ryze Azir, yesterday, and I'm sure we'll break that down when we get into the game once again.
And one of the key differences that I see as we take a step back from these compositions is the fact that you have the ability to play 1-3-1 for Vitality quite easily with the mobility and just kind of the raw dueling power between a Set and a Ryze versus kind of a 1-4 more oriented comp coming out of SK Gaming. I'm taking a peek over at Jenax's summoner spells. Sometimes you can see Azir try to go for the teleport if they do want to play in a side lane. He is taking the cleanse to respect the potential CC that comes out of it, which is fairly common for Azir, but it's a bit trickier when you place him out into a side lane on how comfortable Azir is going to be, because he works a lot better when he's kind of set in a certain position. He gets to play around his towers. He doesn't have to move around a lot.
We'll see how well SK are able to enact that 1-4. Vitality still looking for their first win of the split now that we are over the halfway mark of spring here. They said they've got nothing to lose. Well, maybe today will be the day that they start winning.
I mean, on the other side, Vitality is saying that they've got nothing to lose. I think SK Gaming are kind of in a similar boat. It's, you know, you've already kind of seen the worst from us. We've taken our hits, we've fallen down, and I think that both of these squads are, you know, we're already on the ground, so we have no problem looking to pick ourselves back up. I think people will be erring on the side of SK Gaming just because a lot of the standings, they actually have some wins on the board there. So I think no surprise to see them as the slight favorites in this matchup.
Well, we'll see if they can live up to that favorite standing as we are about to jump on to Summoner's Rift. Let's talk a little bit about how these teams are likely to play in the early game. Junglers, both of them have relatively strong early ganking, especially as Sejuani and Aatrox can lock someone down pretty effectively.
Yeah, and it's about kind of figuring out where the pressure point is going to be for both these squads, these compositions, and these teams' tendencies. We've talked a lot about how Vitality usually like to create a situation where they can throw a lot of resources towards Cabochard, and they do have a good combination to do that with the Gragas and the Set. That said, Gragas and Saken can still team up, try to connect some of their CC. The nice thing about Gragas, since the jungle changes, is that he feels like he just gets to snowball to, not snowball, but kind of skip over sitting at level 2 for a long time. It's much faster and easier to get to level 3 with the different pathing, and that's really where Gragas's gank pathing really starts to shine. So I think that's also one of the reasons why he's really popped off in the current jungle since the changes of 2020.
Yeah, you want to be able to go back, get that Predator as soon as possible. It looks like actually Skeanz is going to start on the bottom side of the map. SK put a ward both by their blue buff and by the mid lane to spot out if Vitality were looking for any invades.
I do want to point out that Crownshot is actually taking teleport on the Misfortune. Crownshot obviously plays a lot of Misfortune. He's a big fan of shoving the wave forward and then using Misfortune's movement speed on her W to get a quick recall in while the wave is forward before it bounces back to his time. So normally you don't need to take a TP on MF to kind of keep even in wave. Probably assumed that Ezreal would bring it since it is a common summoner spell for him, but my eyes are going to be on how he cheats for tempo or cheats for pressure with this teleport and where he picks his windows on a champion that is already given so much mobility to not only hard push lanes with her double tap passive, but get back to lanes faster with that W. Love Strut, I think it's called.
It's just Strut, I believe, but Love Strut is close.
It's Love Strut when I play her.
Oh, I'm sure it is. The cute cactus taking to the rift once again. Cabochard's going to hit a good facebreaker here on Sacre in the top lane. Both of them running Conqueror. Expect to see Bruiser level trades up here, and Sacre actually losing the race to level 2 means that Cabochard has been able to get some good harassment off. I
do want to point out on some of the pathing right now in the jungle, actually, Skeanz is going for a full clear of his jungle, so he's done red, Krugs, then 2 Raptors. I'll hold it though, so big damage.
Ignited. Limit could flash for the auto, but decides against it. Comp ticking down with the Ignite. Didn't jump away with the Arcane Shift, which is why he got caught.
So huge damage right there. He does have the teleport. We'll see if he's forced to burn it right now to pay for that. Oh, is he going to throw the Q?
Oh, that would be very greedy. Like, I've been the Nautilus in that situation.
You're thinking about it, you're like, how much do I want to screw this guy over versus put myself in a bad situation?
What this does open up is Crownshot getting one of those cheater recalls off without burning his teleport, though, because there's the big wave pushing in, and if he wanted to back now and get a couple more Dorans, or at least one more Doran's blade, he could try and get away.
Yeah, and the extra seconds that he took was to make sure that Steelback couldn't get a freeze for the wave. It's pretty easy with Braum. You can throw up your wall, eat a lot of that minion aggro, but Crowny, actually, because he takes a poor recall position, loses his ability to get in that early recall to pick up that early Doran's Blade and not trade any CS. So good job for Steelback to step forward and really punish Misfortune for not going all the way back past her tower to make sure she could get the recall.
Especially since Limit had already backed off from the bottom lane, so Crownshot has a long time in lane now where his support is not there to help.
This is interesting though. Now Limit may gank his own lane. He's actually trying to see if they'll go aggressive on Misfortune. He's got Trick behind him. Good scouting ward there from Vitality, but always look for those options, especially in your solo queue game. When you come back in, you don't necessarily have to come back in from behind your tower. See if you can gank your own lane. Oftentimes, people won't be thinking about it.
It's true. He did use the Scryer's Bloom, so Vitality knew he was in the vicinity, or at least knew that either Trick or Limit were around. Another good hook lands on Comp, but the Unbreakable from Steelback will mitigate the majority of the damage. We saw some trading from Cabochard once again in the top lane as Sacre. It's just continually pushed back underneath his tower early on here. Set can be pretty oppressive in lane if you can be hitting those face breakers and the haymakers.
And they've also, Vitality have been given a lot of information about where Trick is, even though he himself, I don't think, has appeared on the vision just yet. But like you said, the fact when the Scryer's Bloom goes down, you assume that Sejuani is probably on bottom side of the map. So Skeanz was covering Cabochard when he was really pressed forward, but then left him, continued to power farm his own jungle, heading back to Krugs. And Cabochard has perfect information to say, Sej is probably still bot side, so I can continue to be aggressive in this matchup.
Skeanz knows that there's a ward in that bush. He'd already used the Oracle's alteration, decided not to clear the ward, was perhaps looking to see if he could get a gank off, even popped the Predators down towards that bottom lane, but wasn't able to find anything, so he's gone back to farming. Cabochard has picked up the Executioner's Calling and didn't have to teleport back to the lane, so he can join a fight if it goes down, perhaps around the first dragon of the game.
This would be the situation that Crownshot was looking for in the minion wave, getting it super far forward and then getting that time that you can walk back to lane, so by the time you get there, the minion wave is now pushed into you.
It's really good for Cabochard, can just farm up underneath the turret. We'll see Comp and Steelback trying to trade onto Limit and Crownshot here. Comp yet to pick up his tier, of course, because of that very early back. Doesn't have the teleport to do a quick recall, pick up the tier, and then come back and start stacking it up. Makes it quite difficult for the Ezreal. You want to be stacking that tier as soon as possible.
It also does put a bit of a target. Now, there's kind of two ways to look at it. It's still hard to gank an Ezreal and a Braum because he A, has flash as well as his E. But if you can kill him and punish him, now that you know that he had to burn the early teleport, it can be really punishing. So I actually would expect XK to maybe cautiously peek their head down here, especially now as we're fighting over Drake.
Well, Trick's already putting his head down here. Sacre, no teleport, remember. Skeanz very low. Trick going in, looking for the smite here. Skeanz is not in position. Stun up on Trick. Trick gets it, secures the Cloud Drake, but he will fall. Teleport comes in, there's a showstopper to try and get Limit away from the Blast Cone, and with the Realm Warp coming in, you have to feel that Limit has nowhere to go. Tries to jump back, the Haymaker connects, and Comp will flash across the wall pretty aggressively there to get the second kill of the game for Vitality.
Yeah, making sure that the gold is going into the Ezreal's pocket there as we kind of see where the kills evened out. It's Ezreal and Rise that pick it up in exchange for the Cloud Drake, so probably still feels really good for Vitality. Cabochard even farming behind the wave because he expended his teleport, which can be really punishing, especially if you don't pick up one of those kills, since now you've given Sacre all that extra time with the top lane minion, but makes up for it by power farming some waves.
So Skeanz perhaps doing just a little bit too much on the Cloud Drake, went very low, and Drake is able to secure it, does end up paying for it with his life.
I think it's one of those situations, we talk about this a lot, where if you can get the Drake before 8 minutes, it makes the 8-minute Herald swap feel that much better because then you're not trading monster objective for monster objective. But like the only bad thing about Gragas is that he can't do it as successfully as other AD junglers. Obviously he's AP, but the AD junglers like the Lee Sins, the Jarvans, even an AP jungler like Elise, and you could see the punish there that if you peek your head around and Gragas is in serious trouble.
What I do like from Vitality after that play was made is on the reset, they immediately sent Comp and Steelback up towards the top lane. They saw Crownshot teleporting down towards the bottom lane turret and were like, okay, we can actually preempt the Rift Herald spawning and send our AD carry and support up top before that 8-minute mark because we know there's no Cloud Drake to fight over.
The only issue is that they're not really in position to make up for it. So I do see what you're saying, that they're trying to kind of like beat the clock, get ahead of the play. And I think it's just the assumption that they're going to be playing kind of in these Australian 2v2s where the map is flipped upside anyway, rather than trying to get the first punch onto Herald since Skeanz was still on the bottom side of the map.
Well, now Crownshot has hit level 6 in the Australian lanes that you talked about. Skeanz is up towards this top side, so is Trick. And Jenax on his roam up here after pushing out the wave went double Doran's, double Dagger in that lane, so we'll have enough mana and enough attack speed to push out the waves pretty effectively. Saken scaling up on the Rise as you expect with the tier and the Catalyst of Aeons. Rod of Ages usually the first item we see on Rises these days. Just get all of that mana and AP as quickly as you can and then start machine gunning out the damage in fights.
I think because both of the teleports are down for top laners, and you are correct that the objective, if we're going to be playing for one for both these teams, would be Herald. We're right now fighting for mid priority and who's going to get first roam potential towards the top side or into the upper part of the river. So Jenax's build of having the double dagger, of having the double Dorans that you were talking about, makes him an unmovable object. And I like the fact that SK are throwing Trick down into the mid lane, trying to fight for mid priority, and then trying to unlock Azir to rotate a numbers advantage up. But you're competing with this.
Limit has dredge line, so we will be able to get out. Concussive blows was started there, but unable to get the full proc. Cabochard with the stinger as his first item is showing Sacre the meaning of pain right now in this bottom lane.
Yeah, he's not about the black cleaver on the set. He is feeling pretty good right now when he gets some more gold and gets to complete that big purchase.
I hear you get tons of damage when you complete the Triforce on the set. And here's a bit like we saw yesterday, the ability to isolate an AD carry as a set, and I expect to see Cabochard doing the same in this game. MF, very low mobility, doesn't really have a huge amount of protection from the showstopper. We'll see if Crownshot's able to dodge around when the fights begin erupting, assuming we get to a 5v5 at any point in this game.
I think it also makes him a huge threat on the side lane as well, going for the I can never say Trinity Force. Oh, you sound like, but you know, don't you ever feel when you say it that you have like a weird accent? Trinity Force.
Trinity Force.
Trinity Force.
It's because I pronounced the T. There's two T's. Trinity.
I can't get the R.
Okay.
But it's obviously going to feel good in like a side lane for dueling potential for set, as well as you were talking about the backline threat. If Cabo does want to group up with his team and just try to drop some elbows on MF there in the backline.
I had a discussion with a wrestling commentator about what actually the move would be, and we think it's a flying DDT instead of an actual RKO, because that's usually what we call it, but it's more of like a side slam than an RKO, which is sort of a head to the ground.
It's about the proper angle?
Yeah, you have to get the correct angles.
Okay.
It's very interesting. Wrestling can be incredibly fun to watch, and the commentators there are actually incredible. So always enjoy it. And Trick, oh, that flash was interesting, but the Glacial Prison still connects. They're on the chase, the smite comes down. That's a Stalker's Blade, slowing up comp, and Limit with the depth charge underneath the turret will give the kill across the Crownshot. It was messy, but it worked. Now the gank in the mid lane is going to happen as Saken flashes forward. The chase is on. Goodbye, Jenax, as he manages to escape to the bottom side of the fight. The Realm Orb's coming out. Jenax shifts away. Oh, steal back. Oh, Jenax, you did everything you could. One more. Just punches him down.
For his credit, though, or Jenax's credit, it does mean that the kill goes into Steelback's pocket instead of the rise of the Gragas, which obviously Vitality would have preferred there. So still well played on the back half of it. Starting with the top side of the play, I like the fact that Limit made the call. He's like, I'm not even going to try to hit this hook. I'm actually going to aim it directly at the tower because it'll put me in auto attack range and get the disrupting blow there. So we're now starting on the Herald.
Yeah, we've seen Skeanz go quite low on a couple of objectives, and there's a teleport in here from Sacre. Cabos is still just a couple of seconds away. The engage comes out, Trick jumping in, and that's a lot of damage already onto Saken. Not really much the Vods can do in this situation. SK say thank you very much for the leash. They'll take the Rift Herald. They are 1,000 gold behind, but now they have that objective and can even path down towards the Infernal Dragon if they want.
And unfortunately, just slightly missed time from Vitality right there. They thought that they got the earlier reset, so that time around they got kind of first punch into that Herald play, but not accounting for Cabochard's TP barely being unavailable there. And that's the big punish because obviously Aatrox gets there, Cabochard can't, and the fight was already over.
You see the gold being funneled into Crownshot off that Rift Herald push. The Infernal Dragon now the target for SK. They didn't get the turret, but they got 4 plates for their AD carry. Now 700 gold ahead of comp. And this MF will start to shred through team fights.
And I think the big thing that you nailed right there, Medic, is the fact that you just got a ton of plate gold on Misfortune. She now has the 2 kills into her pocket, and she's going to make a pretty big back after cleaning up these waves and kind of get to the point where Misfortune is really strong, which is on 1 and 2 items.
Building up towards it quite rapidly. We'll see how SK can use that power spike after Crownshot backs and picks up his Essence Reaver, as you would expect. Manamune stacking up for comp. He's got a Sheen. Trinity Force on its way for Cabochard. Just a little bit shy of that. Still needs the Sheen. And then, of course, the 333 combination gold, the recipe gold for Trinity. Across the board, CS is pretty even. There's 10 CS here, 10 CS there, but it's mirrored in the gold with only about 500 between these two teams.
So usually at this state in the game, in the mid game, this is kind of be our vision wars. Sometimes it can be a lull state. So let's try to figure out where the teams will be looking to kind of interact next. Usually you look at the summoner spells. The fact that Azir, Jenax, is missing his flash, I think makes him a proper target for Vitality. So they send 3 members mid, they get mid priority, and then immediately they start sprinting towards the SK member that doesn't have flash. Jenax, though, recognizes it, disengages, but I think this is kind of the rinse and repeat maneuver you're going to see from Vitality as they fish around with Gragas Cask.
Especially since Cabochard still has his teleport and there's no TP on Sacre. If Vitality can get a deep ward, get a flank ward in, they can always look for one of those plays. I believe Trick is about to walk across one while Vitality continue with this 3-man push in the middle lane. Here we go. Trick didn't spot him. Now he does, because Skeanz chucks up our barrel, and the damage isn't quite there for Vitality right now. They don't really want to take a full-on brawl in the river.
Yeah, and that's the key thing. It's the fact that Vitality are fishing around to catch someone out.
Now they go in, Glacial Fisher, there's the knockback. Limit went for the dredge line and missed it by a mile. That was a little bit greedy from Limit. Bullet time used in the mid lane to try and push it in. The Infernal Chain's going to pull Cabochard back here as he tries to continue, well, punching Sacre in the face.
But it was Vitality fishing around for the mistake from SK Gaming. It felt like if SK actually just kind of planted their feet, stayed in formation, that they would feel pretty confident just to absorb those waves. But it's Limit who steps too far forward, dies with his flash up as we take another look at it.
Yeah, it just misses the dredge line.
I mean, at that point, I actually don't think he wanted that dredge line to hit because he didn't want to stand there. I mean, it was losing track where Skeanz was and kind of overestimating, I've got Trick here for support, so they're thinking, I can do this rather than the enemy team can also do this to me.
They knew that Skeanz was around, they knew that Steelback was around, and the the Concussive Blows was stacking up, so not the sort of queue you want to go for, sort of queue from a support at the bottom of the table right now. I've thrown many of them in my time for skewing. You hope they don't hit, and then you hope you don't die.
That's why you play Leona, so you don't have to worry about that one.
You can't throw a Q as Leona, you just auto-attack them.
You're not punished as hard for your missed skill shots.
That is true. We do have some items starting to rattle in here. You got the Nash's Tooth complete on Jenax, Trinity Force just complete on Cabochard, and the Rod of Age is still stacking up on Saken. So we'll see if SK want to try and take a fight around the power of Nash's Tooth and Essence Reaver. Might want to wait for Crownshot to be that little bit stronger, but you can see the double up there. Already chunking away at Comp. Skeanz here. Limit still has his flash. The dredge line comes out, but Limit's almost dead already. There comes the stopwatch, and the stun with the Glacial Prison's going to land on Steelback. Knocked back. Steelback secures it with a Winter's Bite to the back. Saken trading on Jenax as Jenax uses the shifting sands to get himself to safety.
And they're finding multiple picks in this mid lane. And I think it's coming from a lot from the raw damage that Gragas is outputting versus the Sejuani. Obviously, in terms of like itemization, it's tank itemization versus a bit more front-loaded damage from the Gragas. But you can see that SK feel confident that they've got their jungler behind them. They have a ton of damage, but it's just not layering the way that they want it to. And they're basically just getting blown up at the start of these fights. Like, look at how much damage Limit takes before he gets into the stopwatch, and then Skeanz just makes it so easy.
Steelback landing the Winter's Bite right at the end. Definitely pays off for Vitality, and the Unbreakable, of course, blocking so much of the bullet time makes it very hard for Crownshot to get the damage down that he would want across the course of a fight. Tower in the bottom lane still remains. Vitality yet to take a turret this game. Cabochard did burn his TP in that last fight, so when this Ocean Dragon comes up in 30 seconds, it's Sacre who will be first to the play, and we'll see if Crownshot and Limit want to get a couple of wards just into the jungle. This one definitely helps with a flanking position for Sacre if a fight begins.
I actually think this is a really nice formation for Vitality to take out on the map because Aatrox isn't accounting to play across from an AP damage threat like the Rise. So I actually want Vitality to play this dragon fight really slow and just allow Rise. We're not going to play it slow.
Limit keeps going in for the hook. Steelback takes a bit of a chunk, but he's still very healthy. The Predator was popped here. You say it's not played slow. I can understand Vitality's mentality, though, because this is the third dragon. After this, you're on your sole point. And SK have started it up. Now, they are zoned out. 3 members have to go up towards the top side of this as Sacre steps forward. Dragon down to about 3,000 HP. Trick's still looking for it. Skeanz is here for the steal if he can. He's got a level advantage, and here he goes in, he gets it. The steal away from Skeanz. Did have a level advantage. Flashes from the hook. Cabochard now in the pit. Saken on his way down, pushing forward in the mid lane. And Vitality actually going to get the Dragon and get a lot of damage on this mid lane turret.
Yeah, but... Okay, first of all, we'll celebrate. They got the steal, Vitality, Skeanz got the steal onto the Drake, so that's going to feel really good. But think about if it was a situation where they didn't actually pull Saken, who did have teleport, obviously if you get to walk down and participate to a fight, but instead we're trying to stall out SK Gaming on the Drake, dissuade them from doing it, and buy time for Rise to also get time up into that top side of the map where he's farming, he's gaining experience, or possibly even getting damage on the top tier tower. So I just feel that it's a pretty clear example of why SK Gaming and Vitality are sitting near the bottom of the standings, is that they're a bit too focused on monster objectives, and that being kind of their primary way that they want to move the chains of the game, that they want to accelerate the pace of League of Legends. They have to find fights because they don't know how to create other advantages elsewhere on the map.
We do talk about this a lot, especially with teams like Origin, the team that tends to give up the first 2 dragons of the game to get extra CS, to get extra plates, and to try and funnel as much gold as possible into their players before they get towards these team fights, or before they separate the enemy with just item leads and gold leads and start beating people up with their wallets.
And speaking of gold lead, I feel like Ezreal has been sitting on the same items for so long. He must have so much gold just sitting in his pocket. Yep.
Yeah, he does.
He needs to go back and buy. Comp is, he's been chilling on the map for a very long time.
Maybe he's just looking for the full Sheen upgrade into Trinity Force.
No, I understand, but he's been sitting on Sheen, and his Muramana is now completed, but like he's been sitting on that item for the duration that it took to complete it. And now he gets his back.
Do you never do that in ARAM? You see how little you can die. You see, if you've got 0 deaths at like the 15-minute mark, you're like, oh, I'm just not going to die this game. You have 10k in the bank. Wait, he finishes the Trinity Force. So now he's at that 2-item power point for Ezreal. Of course, Ezreal, no longer the Ezreal of old that sort of fell off as the game goes on. Still has a lot of damage in the late game. Yeah,
Vedius brought up the point, and I really agree with it the last time he was on cast, where we don't typically think about Ezreal as kind of like a hard scaling champion, but Ezreal scales proportionate to the champions that can threaten him.
Yeah.
Because obviously if he stays alive, for how many Qs he can continue to throw out, his damage just continues to ramp over the course of the fight. It's often why you end a solo queue, you press tab, and Ezreal will almost always top the damage charts because he is a poke-oriented ADC. But obviously the champions that damage him have really heavy dive. I'll hold it though.
Jenax gonna knock it back. Steal back with the Emperor's Divide. Steal back pops his stopwatch, the Realm Warp's coming in. As the TP's used as well. SK get the first kill of the fight, but here comes Saken with the Rune Prison. They've taken out Crownshot, and now the chase is on. Limit has to dash away with the Dredge line. Sacre trying to go back in. Infernal Chains will connect, and that's a kill on Saken. Limit's still alive. And here comes the rest of them, because Jenax can put the damage in. Cabochard doesn't have the showstopper, already used it. Goes in. There's a haymaker from downtown. Cabochard with a great flash. And the face breaker means he evens out the fight.
Vitality lost the plot slightly about what was happening in the team fight, but Cabochard got it right back on track. He stopped chasing, he returned to his team, and he finds a massive combo in the middle to clean up the team fight, pick up the tower, and now it feels that Vitality are rightfully back in control.
Well played by Cabochard, the man that many have looked at, and many times Vitality have looked to for these sorts of plays.
I think an issue is that think of how many resources were used just to initially try to kill and pick out Steelback. When you use all of these vital cooldowns, Jenax gets kind of hard pushed away from the fight. Yeah, you kill Steelback and you get the shutdown, but then you're not in the proper position to do anything for the rest of the fight. And SK Gaming spends so much time kind of trying to run back, get their front line back in front of them. Sacre does eventually get it, but then Cabochard slips in underneath and grabs all 3.
Cabochard able to dodge around for such a long time, build up that grit, and then the haymaker connects. No time in that fight for Crownshot to get off the bullet time. He wasn't able to get that ult rattling across the Vitality team.
But I want to go back to a point that we were talking about, which was Ezreal's scaling potential relative to who can threaten him in a backline, and also put that in reference for SK Gaming, because Cabochard now doesn't have flash, and Set is still pretty dependent on his flash because it is hard to find these gap closers. So you have a composition where there's not a ton of dive from SK Gaming. Ezreal should actually feel really safe in this game to continue to throw out Qs, to constantly maximize his damage output from afar. On the flip side, though, without having access to flash on Rise or Cabo, it is actually really hard to get into the back line of SK Gaming.
They're trying to get Saken to burn his TP here. He's pushing in. Now, Sacre, they spotted him going in for the flank. Limit. There's the depth charge, but it only lands onto Skeanz. SK disengage, and this is good from Vitality. They kept Saken there. They didn't burn the TP preemptively. Saken will get the second turret of this push. SK really get nothing out of that. They lose mid-prio, they lose the tower in the bottom lane.
And SK Gaming just need to take a bit better control of their waves, but they're actually two-manning it. So obviously one of the cool tricks that you can do, especially when you have an Azir and he's got the attack speed and a tank jungler, you're having Trick tank it and then you're just trying to burn it with Azir. And I don't think Vitality suspect anything. They're not moving towards this Baron at all.
Trick's gonna die. They know now. They know now, Frosk. They're still gonna get it. They only get it on 4 players. It was sneaky from SK. Give them credit for it. They were able to take it out, but I feel like Trick probably could have survived.
I think Limit's laughing.
Yeah, I mean, I can see Limit laughing. Trick's laughing as well. Trick's got a smile on his face.
Trick's like, please just tank it, someone.
Okay, so we saw a trade of Ocean Dragon for the Baron. 4 members of SK have it. Sacre, we wondered if SK would look for a 1-4. Sacre doesn't have TP. Both Cabochard and Saken have theirs up. So it's a little bit harder for SK to really enact that composition.
Yeah, I actually think you'd feel that SK Gaming got the Baron at this point, but I actually don't think that puts them in a winning state on the map. I think it actually just kind of neutralizes a lot what Vitality were doing on the map.
Oh, great engage from Trick. He flashes in. Jenax gonna shuffle Saken to the side. Saken, Realm Orb won't get out in time. Jenax gets the kill.
I mean, obviously it's gonna feel good when someone's just too far extended and you just flash delete them from the map. Here we go, another pick.
Skeanz looking for the knockback, but a good sidestep from Sacre means that he will get back underneath this turret. Did have to burn the ult.
Hopefully by killing Ryze, it actually alleviates a lot of pressure, because the issue that I had is that, yeah, SK Gaming get the Baron, but it feels like they wouldn't be able to use it as aggressively because they are unable to play all 3 lanes as cleanly as Vitality. By picking Ryze off, it makes it so much easier to use this Baron aggressively, to stack all of your members into the same lane and get something out of it, rather than just having the Baron to kind of stop the bleeding and give Azir time to find items.
They will get their 4th turret of the game with a 2,000 gold lead at the 25-minute mark, and we will have a quick look across those items. Frost, it's Blade of the Ruin King on its way for comp. It's Liandry's and Nash's Tooth for Jenax. No Ludens to be seen here. Nemesis would be very happy. Death's Dance is now finished on Sacre alongside the Black Cleaver, and the Sterax Gauge on Cabochard. That Trinity 4 Sterax Gauge combo, one we've seen so often.
Did you talk about the Warmogs on Sejuani?
I mean, that's a normal build for Sejuani.
No, I know, but it's just so fun, especially when you're against a poke composition, because it means that Trick can pop out, heal back in, come back out.
That's true. And you're playing into Double Ocean as well, so you're trying to match the amount of health regen that Vitality are getting.
Oh, good luck doing that.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. There is another dragon in 2.5 minutes time. The Baron buff is going to expire in about 30 seconds, so we will probably have a period of quiet as Cabochard realizes SK could be coming for a gank and backs away accordingly.
Yeah, SK Gaming still have a lot of pressure points on this map right now, so they're just trying to pinch as much out of this Baron as possible, get a final tower, and if Vitality do mess up, if they get caught here, SK Gaming can still really punish them with what's left on Baron.
Here we go, pushing in for the turret. 4 members of SK here, and 4 members of SK decide to retreat. The Cannon Minion will survive for 1 more Mystic Shot, as Comp lands them in the end, and it's been a good push for SK. They got about 3,500 gold off the Baron that they snuck away when Vitality seemed to be in control of the game, and it means they are getting towards, you know, more of these item spikes, more of the power in their composition.
Yeah, and this is kind of the formation that I expected before Ryze got caught. Again, it's the ability for Vitality's composition to apply pressure in all 3 lanes, a little bit easier than SK Gaming's comp. Which means that you don't get to use the Baron as effectively as you want. So they get a tower off of their pick. We'll see if they get more by hiding in this brush.
Sacre hasn't been spotted. Crownshot, the only one pushing in mid. Here goes Trick. They engage onto Skeanz. He goes golden. Infernal Chain's going to come out as well. And there's the damage from the bullet time. Trick uses a stopwatch of his own, but he's going to fall. There's the explosive cast to the back, and Saken gets a kill as well on the backside. Limit's going to get chased off here. Vitality. SK looked for the fight, but Vitality slammed the door in their face. 3 kills to them, and they can push down mid.
Yeah, it was who was actually setting the trap for who. Both teams got locked into a choke point, but it's Vitality who come up on top and are now marching down the mid lane without the bullet time. There's no way that Crowny can clear this wave, so there should be a big swing for Vitality.
They'll be looking for the inhibitor.
And the dragon, they can fall back to it. It spawns in 30 seconds.
They decided not to go for the inhib. The wave clear of Azir and MF was just a little bit too strong for them. And of course, they burnt most of their ultimates in the last fight. So get what you can, take the tower. They are now 5 turrets to 4 up, and they've evened out that gold score as well. Closed the gap of that 2,000 it was just a few minutes ago.
They're actually trying to stagger their backs because they want to get access to this Drake. As we take another look at the replay, it's nice because in this choke point, for once, it felt like the Braum ultimate wasn't completely disrupting the Misfortune ultimate, but still not getting the damage that you want out of it. Gonna peek over on what's happening in real time real quick.
The chase was on with the Realm Warp, obviously. Pretty easy for Vitality. Saken did a lot of damage from the side there. Now, the Ocean Dragon has been started, both of them sitting on 2 Drakes.
And the thing that we missed is that Vitality did a good job staggering backs as we challenge for this.
And it's taken by Jenax. Now the fight really begins as Vitality are pushing forward. The flank position is here, but Cabochard's been caught out. Haymaker, shield, showstopper, back. Jenax with a great flash. Gets himself across the wall. We'll see if the chase continues as Comp jumps in, but he's hooked up straight away. The bullet time just at the edge of it, not gonna connect. Vitality get out 5 men alive.
It's that type of game where the Ezreal actually arcane shifts his way, or was it the flash, into the enemy team and manages to walk out anyway.
He was so close to going down. If he'd been half an inch closer, that bullet time would have ripped him to pieces.
And of course the team fight starts out here. Azir secures the dragon. Cabochard is teleporting in right now to the minion wave behind them and then gets immediate access into the backline. Now, it's a really good flash as well as ultimate from Jenax to at least stall the initial damage that Cabochard can do, but then Comp cleans up the back half of the fight with so much damage from Ezreal.
It's actually his flash that gets him to safety alongside the QSS just to get out of that. Now Vitality will get control over the Baron Pit. Look at that damage. 3,000 from Comp. Has had a pretty impeccable performance so far. Gold still even here as Vitality has started it up. There's the Haymaker, but Cabochard low, has to flash out. Azir on his way. Janet's going to rejoin the team. Vitality realize they can't do this. Cabo's too low, doesn't have the TP, doesn't have the flash anymore.
And it feels like there's no real reason for Vitality to try to force a 50-50 Baron like that, especially when you do have access to the teleport. Sacre versus this Aatrox. Now, he does have Righteous Glory, so it's not like the true full damage Rise. Of course, Righteous Glory isn't a bizarre itemization for Rise, but it helps better when you are kind of grouped up with your team and you can make use of that movement speed. But I think that they could try to use Saken here to leverage a side lane rather than just 5-man running at the Baron and flipping the coin about who's going to come down with it.
But sometimes that's kind of the decision you make when you are 0-9 as a team. It's one of those, oh, we know we can get them to fight us at Baron, and we feel that perhaps we can win the fight at Baron, so let's just pull them into it. Vitality have had some good decision-making this game, but there's a reason they're sitting at the bottom of the LEC standing.
I think one of the nice things about Vitality's composition is that they can pretty quickly shift off of the Baron, not only with Ryze's Realm Warp, but obviously with how flexible Comp is or how much mobility that he has. So if that is the decision that you're talking about, where they feel really confident that they just want to pull SK Gaming into a fight, so they're going to constantly gravitate around the Baron, then they do have nicely suited champions that if they're interrupted, they can very quickly turn towards the fight. That said, still quite dangerous to ever group up over a monster objective against SK Gaming's composition that has so much layering of CC. You've got the core itemization that you need on Azir to start hitting like a truck, as well as the bullet time. So you are playing with fire anytime you do this.
Well, Vitality continue to do it. They do have vision control around here. No real deep wards in the jungle of SK. But they will try and get them as soon as they can steal back. As Trick face checks in, the damage is going to come out onto Trick, and already he's gone. That was a little bit greedy from Trick. Didn't have mid-prio. Steelback's going to tank up a bit of damage as well, but now Vitality can turn. They found the fight they want. They're going to push out mid lane and then once again try and draw SK towards that Baron.
Yeah, that is actually not just greedy from Trick, but really devastating here, because now it forces SK Gaming into a position where they have to fight, and they're fighting into an area where they don't control vision across from a Gragas. So there was the last blue orb. It seems like SK Gaming are like, we can't do anything about it. It's not worth it. They're now trying to tank up the tower to keep that minion alive so they don't get the fortified damage.
Limit didn't get there in time actually to tank it up. The dredge line slows you up just a little bit. The minion gets underneath the turret, so SK have to stop their push at the tier 2. Vitality with a Baron are now going to be able to see how they play around it.
I mean, it unfortunately all just stems from this.
Yeah.
Trick walks blindly into Fog of War, immediately gets deleted from the map, and then like you said, it's pretty simple for Vitality. Disengage from the fight, get mid lane priority, walk over to Baron. SK Gaming can't do anything, they didn't have any vision, wasn't safe to check.
SK made about 3,500 gold off the Baron they had earlier. We'll see how much Vitality can cash in, because They are putting Saken into a side lane. You can see Cabochard joining up with the team because he doesn't have the TP. We were wondering if he could 1-3-1, but you really can't do that when there's so much hard engage and so much ability for SK to start a fight at a numbers advantage.
But otherwise now it's just kind of the slow chokehold from Vitality. SK Gaming are running out of options. The dragon will be spawning in 26 seconds, so there's two types of thought here. Vitality, or SK Gaming, can try to catch the waves that Vitality are pushing in. Obviously, you don't want to leave them completely unattended because then Vitality will just run it into your top inhib. But there was a window where a single member from SK Gaming could have walked towards the Drake, maybe tried to get some cheeky vision in there. Because now all you did was you watched Vitality shove in mid and top. You lost priority over the Drake. That is a super deep teleport.
Behind enemy lines.
This is desperation.
Sacre's looking for the flank. Here we go. Dredge line in. Steelmax already dead. Almost dead side. Skeanz goes in with the explosive cast. Sacre still coming in for the fight.
Sacre.
Here is the damage. Skeanz low. Goes golden. The true shot barrage is going to connect. Crownshot trying to fight against Saken. Emperor's Divide comes out. Jenax finds one. They're going to jump onto Saken, but Saken's doing all the damage he can. Jenax still alive. Hit with a mystic shot. Vitality should be able to clean this one up now as Sacre lands a great bit of damage onto Comp, but Comp QSS's. There's the damage coming in with the mystic shot still connecting. And Sacre, caught up in the minions, won't be able to do too much more. You have to fear he's done. Only Trick survives and Vitality find 4.
I mean, the story of that fight was for 90% of it, Comp was full health. No one touched the Ezreal. It wasn't until it was just Aatrox versus the world that Comp had the confidence to put himself in melee range before anyone even touched him. And that has been the story of the game. No one can threaten the damage dealers. Vitality worked SK Gaming over this map and will now find a victory.
Are they going to be able to do it? Cabochard's tanking up all the damage from Limit and Trick, and there's not too much of it. The Dredge line coming out. There's the Haymaker. First Nexus Tower will fall. It looks like Vitality are not ready to win yet as the Glacial Prison connects onto Comp, but the chase won't continue. Vitality back away. They're going for the Ocean Dragon Frost. Unable to finish out the game.
As we take another look at this team fight, just keep your eyes on this Ezreal and for how long he goes untouched. And this is what we're talking about. There's no threat to Ezreal. There's no champion that can get back there and try to reach him.
And a TP behind enemy lines from Saken as well. You can see it just at the top of the screen. Crownshot getting caught out by him. It means that once again, Crownshot isn't able to have an impact in the fight, and Comp is just free to rain down hell.
While this replay is finishing up here, it's of course the third Ocean Drake that's now been picked up for Vitality. So SK Gaming slowly just losing any sort of consolation prize on the map.
The fights have been close, if not falling in SK's favor. It feels like bit by bit Vitality are getting every advantage they can. You can see how devastating it is for Crownshot to be on the receiving end of a TP straight into a room prison from Saken. There's really not much you can do about that. He's got the Mercurial Scimitar now, so has that QSS, but very difficult for him to escape. True Shot Barrage coming out, doesn't connect onto anyone. And now we'll see how well SK can defend. Skeanz has a Banshees and a Zhonya's. It's going to stay alive for a long time in these fights.
And unfortunately, because they used their TP on that last team fight, there's not a lot of options for them to find kind of that other Hail Mary play for a really deep flank. You can see Sacre right now is searching around for it, trying his best Splinter Cell impression.
Let's see if he's able to get anything, but as you say, the wards come down from Vitality, and it's very hard to go through Fog of War and be one with the shadows if there aren't any shadows for you to be one with. So Sacre is spotted out. SK have been able to hold on to 2 of their inhibitors, although the mid lane one has fallen, and in 3.5 minutes we'll have the next Ocean Dragon. In a minute and a half we'll have the next Baron, and we'll see which one Vitality want to fight around. Holy wow. He's got 33,000. That's more than Sacre and Crownshot combined.
Ezreal's a fun champion.
Deary me.
Don't your damage charts always look like this?
No, because I don't play Ezreal.
You should play Ezreal.
I'm the Nautilus. I'm sitting down there like, oh, I'm doing my job. 4,464 damage. Woo.
Okay, so
that's pretty disgusting.
How do you deal with this? How can you get a hold of the Ezreal? I think the responsibility for SK in terms of executing their composition is they need to get a bit more creative than rather fighting front to back, because they're not able to kill the front line faster than Vitality are. So I would want to see either Trick or Sacre pull off some maneuvers with flanks, and that means it starts with the control vision. You need to create pockets of Fog of War so you can get them into that backline to start putting pressure on this guy.
You can see SK's waves as well are getting pushed up slowly in those side lanes. Top and bot are going to be continuously pushing towards their turrets. They have to play around mid because that's where the super minions are coming in. And with 20 seconds left on the Baron, both teams are grouped up as 5 in mid. Front to back seems to be the name of the game. Trick waiting in the wings, looking for that Glacial Prison, but you have to land it onto Comp, who's got a QSS in the Mercurial Scimitar. Skeanz has a flank position off towards the top side of this now, as well as Cabochard. Saken stepping back, but he's got the Realm Warp to join in a fight if he wants, and you can actually see Vitality cheating up towards the top. They know their wave is pushing. They know if they can get Saken up towards that, he could take down that inhibitor tower very quickly.
And they also have key summoners available on some of their initiation tools. Cabochard in particular has the Gargoyle Stoneplate as well as his Flash. So
is it a race? Is it a race?
There's no reason to race.
Yeah, but I mean, SK seem to be.
Oh no, we've got race cams on.
Race cam, here we go.
We're racing.
Oh, they're TPing in? Okay, SK back off as soon as they see the TP in. Sacre's already got back, but meanwhile, in the bottom side of this, Limit has been caught. Redemption coming out. Crownshot's got a TP back. They caught Comp, and he uses the QSS. And now it's the 3v3 and a 2v2. The bullet time coming out on the top side as Cabochard Realm Warps out alongside Saken. Now, Trick and Jenax need to get out of this because they are caught in a bad situation. Limit's fallen. Saken and Cabo escaped on the top side. It's an inhibitor for inhibitor turret trade. But now the Baron is available for Vitality. SK definitely came out on the wrong side of that.
That was like the slowest moving car race. Yeah. It felt like it was really dramatic and then kind of teetered out. And I agree with you, Medic. It's pretty clear since Vitality got the proper positioning onto the Baron that they won out in the race.
I mean, SK's car kind of stalled. Hit the inhibitor turret. It's like, nope, no further, thank you very much. And now with a minute on the Ocean Dragon, a Baron in their back pocket, 17 kills to 7 ahead and a 4,000 gold lead. You have to feel this game is all but done. Vitality should be picking up their first win of 2020.
I don't know, this game has kind of been full of surprises, but I do agree, Vitality are in the driver's seat to extend the metaphor. I just think, I think you are kind of seeing some of the nerves, if you will, from both of these squads. It's been a little bit of desperation play from SK kind of back-to-back. The fact that Vitality are playing this so patiently. Sacre right now looking for the deepest of flanks.
Yeah, that would be a deeper flank than the one we even saw earlier.
That would be a marathon. Is he going to cancel it?
He is.
So
he backs. So.
Yeah. He suspects that they're setting up for the Drake because Vitality are like really playing this one by the numbers, being very respectful right now.
With the Drake up in 9 seconds, that would be the Ocean Soul for Vitality. Here we go. Here's the TP. Glacial Prison only going to land onto Steelback. He's knocked up, though, and he might be dead before the fight even really begins. Sacre goes golden as he teleports in. Here's the Realm Warp. It's a 4v5 in favor of SK. The Ocean Dragon on the line. Super Minions on the Inhibitor Tower, on the Nexus Towers. Comp has a flank. We'll try and rattle out the Mystic Shots. He's TPing in. Now it's a true base race as Saken goes in. The Ocean Dragon Soul is there, but Jenax Comp is dominating. Saken's on the base. Saken's on the Nexus turrets. Two recalls have been started as Crownshot goes down. Will they get back in time? Saken is on the Nexus. Vitality have done it. For the first time in 182 days, Vitality win.
Big smiles on the Vitality boys' face. It wasn't exactly the type of win that you wanted to see break down in some of these base races, but a win on the board is a win on the board. And we talked about that mental boom as Duke hugging each individual player.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be so happy as Duke. Sometimes all it takes is one win to start that snowball rolling. We said Vitality had nothing to lose coming into this game. Well, they have finally started winning.
Soak it up, boys.
Yeah. See the relief on some of their faces as well. Of course, Steelback only joining the team last week. Look at Cabo. Look at how happy he is. SK, of course, will be disappointed. There were moments they got ahead. Crownshot got ahead, but the ability of Saken and Cabochard just to continually flank and catch him out made it very, very difficult for SK in those later game team fights.
Yeah, and also huge shout out to Comp. I hope to see him on the Kia player of the game. He's definitely my Kia player of the game. I think he played the Ezreal really well and just put SK Gaming in such a hard position to figure out how they were ever going to deny him